Hey everybody! Well, another day, another Legend of Korra video. Almost 10 years after its last episode. It's just such a rich example for a loss in quality compared to its predecessor. But rather than hate, we should use these opportunities to learn. Also, it's just really fun to hate. Well, let's not waste any more time and jump right into it. LavaBending was introduced in Legend of Korra Season 3, Episode 1. And not gonna lie, I'm not a fan. Let me explain. You see, the magic system in the Avatar world allows the users to control the 4 elements. Earth, water...
Yeah, I knew that already.
Hear me out for a second. You see, when introducing a magic system in a story, writers will have to choose between making it either soft or hard, or somewhere on that spectrum. Both have their place in fantasy, but when they choose which, I think that when the plot is shaped by the progress of that magic system, hard should be the way to go. And so the Avatar world did that.
Mastering the elements takes years of discipline and practice. But if the world is to survive, you must do it by summer's end.
Lots of shonen anime work with such plot. But what sets Atla apart from all of these is that they kept it simple. Now, what do I mean with this? You see, despite explaining in greater detail how the powers work in a show like Naruto, the types of new abilities introduced in this show can still be very unpredictable. Special energy techniques, lava spitting, fire consuming black fire, body controlling, mind controlling, comet summoning. There doesn't really seem to be a limit to the things that can happen in this universe.
But wait, there's more!
Many shonen anime have a power system that give a very large amount of different types of magic. Shows like these solve this unpredictability problem by introducing a new ability at the beginning of an arc or the beginning of a small fight, to be learned or defeated. Or at least let it be done by someone whose power has been hyped up. But in Etla, they decided to just stick to 4 main abilities. This made it so that the combat in this series was dependent on the utility of a character. Aside from the Avatar's mysticism, the majority of victories were determined by the strength, speed and calculations of a fighter, and not just as pulling a new ability. It was like watching a martial arts fight, but with fighters using bending as a tool or extension. A quality that was sometimes kept and at other times even done better in The Legend of Korra. The physical techniques used to bend these elements were based on certain martial arts. What I like about this choice is that these martial arts reflected the way elements were bended. Even though it was never explicitly mentioned, this fact made it so that the bending of these elements had restrictions. An earthbender wasn't going to make a rock tornado, a firebender wasn't going to freeze fire in its place or capture lightning in a bubble, and a waterbender wasn't going to bloodbath an entire audience without the use of a full moon or the motions of waterbending, because that would be stupid. And if something seemed new or completely unique, there was at least an explanation given or implied that this was possible because it was done by a master of that craft. I'm not saying Avatar The Last Airbender deals with this magic perfectly. Sparky Boom Man was never given an explanation to what made him do what he does. I'm not a fan of Jung Solid Firewall, and I'm not gonna explain the Lion's Turtle's problem, but here's an essay on it. A great example of a new ability in this show is metal bending. So at the very start we already know that there are people capable of controlling the earth through their bending, and even though it is never said explicitly, we get the idea that benders have somewhat of a sixth sense to detect their respective element. Now enter Toph, an earthbending prodigy who was born blind and trained by badger moles. With earthbending being the most stable of the elements, it's not a far stretch that earthbending can be used for sensing and detection, and it was shown that earthbending is more powerful when directly in contact with it. With this knowledge, the seismic sense was introduced as a new ability, the use of earthbending to observe your surroundings. Which is also what was needed to detect earth inside of metal. All you need now is put the subject in a desperate situation, use her unique ability that is already built on the magic system of the show, and boom! A new ability introduced that can be used by your character for the rest of the series.
Genius!
Metal bending was at its core still earth bending, but done in a, for lack of a better term, very clever way. Same with blood bending to water bending and lightning bending to fire bending, and each one is explained to the audience to link it to its base ability. There is not one, not even a tenth of a single ability introduced in The Legend of Korra that even comes close to following this standard.
Jinora, how are you here right now? It's a high-level airbender move, with a little spiritual stuff thrown in.
That's all the explanation you're getting. Please don't ask any more questions. What the hell is even happening here? Even older techniques are broken by how they are handled in The Legend of Korra. Metal bending was done by detecting the earth in metal, and in Avatar: The Last Airbender, it was kept, mostly, a technique where you needed to be physical with the metal, because of the seismic sense and all. But why is it that Lin is the only one besides Toph who is seismic sensing? There are all these other metal benders. Wouldn't this ability be more useful to the police, as detection would be a far better skill in the line of work than Spider-Manning through the city? But it looks so cool, doesn't it? No, it doesn't. It looks dumb. They even made Korra metal bend before Aang, who already knew the seismic sense. Enough about how metal bending is broken. We're here to talk about lava bending. So, why do I dislike it so much more than the others? Because they had all the puzzle pieces to follow the standard that made the inclusion of metal bending so cool. The show introduced it being used by a villain, and through the season, the team experienced it as something very difficult to deal with. At the same time, we follow Bolin's attempt to learn metal bending. He's not very good.
I can't metal bend.
And then one episode, when our heroes are cornered, Bolin just does it. It's not something that took time to hone, or something where you just needed a little bit of extra knowledge and use the skill you already know. Our understanding of lava bending in the show is as complex as an on and off switch. Now you use it, now you don't. So, what could have been done? The writers added something to Bolin and Mako that I liked, them being the children of a firebender and an earthbender. However, the only use of this in the show is that they can both be brothers and still add a unique bending style to the team. Not that creative. Here's what I would have done. It's a special situation they're in. The world just had a 100-year war. Racial tension isn't really known for leaving the moment a big conflict between groups has ended, so let that be a part of their arc. You have two orphans, who would have to deal with a combination of this racial tension and making choices to survive in the city on their own. There is a whole lot to explore here. I would use the lava bending skill as a representation of this journey. It's already established in Avatar: The Last Airbender that benders can use stances and forms other than their own bending style to create new abilities or to add new variety to their bending type. And with Republic City being a place where different cultures are coming together, it was a great opportunity to expand on this type of technique mixing. Look, the logic I'm suggesting isn't a complex one. Lava is earth, but seeing as it's a liquid and a regular earthbending style doesn't do so well with fragmented material, a little bit of waterbending technique should help with its control. And seeing as you need to get earth to a high temperature to become lava, some firebending breathing can also be used. If there's any way lava bending is going to be figured out, it's either going to be through the Avatar, with all of their bending knowledge, or a place like Republic City, where all that knowledge that is needed comes together. So, how should lava bending be utilized? What I liked about metal bending is that it had its limits. It was not everywhere, and physical touch was, mostly, needed for it to work. Adding such a limitation to lava bending should help with nerfing this ability a bit, so we don't wonder why this character isn't using it more often and more efficiently. I would make lava bending dangerous, even to the user, because it fucking should be. Hey, did you guys know Mako and Bolin were ex-gang members?
Why is Bolin running around with a triple threat triad anyway?
Well, we used to do some work for them back in the day.
What?
The only real use of this story element is to have Bolin kidnapped. So you'd be forgiven if you forgot it. Here's another way to use this story thread. Let's say that when we first meet Bolin, he has an obvious scar on him. Korra, and you as a viewer, assume it's from a fight with a firebender. Maybe during gang activities. He and Mako remain secretive about it, but as the series progresses, you learn that it was his own doing. A skill he acquired from practicing fire chi techniques with his brother, because he couldn't learn it from his father anymore. But it's one that causes him extreme harm when used. This can then be used for his character journey. It's not uncommon in the Avatar universe to connect abilities to character, because well, Bending kinda depends on it.
Some call lightning the cold-blooded fire. It is precise and deadly, like Azula. To perform the technique requires peace of mind.
Maybe there's another way.
No, that's the problem. You've got to stop thinking like an airbender. There's no different angle, no clever solution, no trickety trick that's gonna move that rock. You've got to face it head on.
The OG writers made it so bending and personality were linked. In Bowling's case, you can let the lava bending be a reflection of his abilities he gained as an orphan, an ability that has hurt others and himself, and because of that, he would be reluctant to use it. But now, he has to go through an arc that teaches him that despite it being something he learned from a dark past, being his characteristics, his lava bending, it's still something he can use now to protect the ones he cares about. A little redemption arc for you. Add in his ability and willingness to connect with different types of people, and that will allow him to pick up water bending techniques, which allows him to use lava bending in a more controlled and safe way. And there you have it, new and improved Bolin and new and improved lava bending. I know this is a complete rewrite of the character. You would also need to change Season 1 to 3 to get this outcome. So let's speedrun a Season 3 only change. Bolin has a dream or flashback of his training with a young Mako. Mako, who doesn't know any better, teaches him what he knows. After some time, Bolin tries to learn metal bending from Suyen Beifong, who, through the seismic sense she learned from her mother, notices Bolin's unique stance, something so fundamental to him that it gets in the way of his ability to metal bend. Bolin's a bit bummed out. When faced with the Red Lotus, there's something about Kuzan's lava bending that seems familiar to him. After that encounter, Bolin trains alone and away from the group. And when cornered, he does a leap of faith and lava bend as he trained to do for a while. And there you have it again. Perfect examples? Probably not, but most definitely better than "He tried to metal bend. It didn't work. He then tried to lava bend. It did." Get that shit in the trash. I'm out of rent. If you made it this far, thanks. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one.